Thank you so much, Bruce, for that wonderful prelude. Good morning. Welcome to the Treasure Coast Unitarian Universal Congregation in Stuart, Florida. Today is August 23rd, 2020. My name is Ronnie Dembowski, and I am your worship associate today. We are happy to have our minister, Bob MacDonald, with us today. A big thank you to Bruce Ruby, our music director, and our Zoom host, Corina Pelloni. Also want to thank Regina Wood and Ken Textera for standing by in case we need technical assistance, which we definitely needed at the beginning of this, but oh well. We will keep you muted throughout the service to prevent background noise. Please remain muted. We are a welcoming congregation. We welcome people of all genders, identities, races, ages, and backgrounds. Thank you for being with us today. We are holding Zoom meetings every Sunday at 11 a.m. and hope you will continue to join us. Announcements can be found in our Friday online newsletter. To be put on our mailing list or to find out more information about us, go to our website at tcuuc.org. In the Friday update, you will see a link so that you can follow us for the Sunday Zoom service. There's also a link for giving. We would so appreciate it if you would give us a little to help us with our expenses. Checks are really good too. They can be mailed to 21 Southeast Central Parkway, Florida, 34997. Needless to say, our expenses are ongoing. Thank you. Now we will have Reverend Bob light the chalice. He's got to get up there, and as he's lighting the chalice, I'm going to say my chalice lighting word. Let there be light. Let there be joy. Let there be happiness and the light of contentment. May it illuminate our paths and fill our lives with peace. Andrew Thakula. Now I'm going to do my opening words. They are, we are living in difficult times, but the world hasn't changed that much. We have made progress on many fronts. Still, the human condition remains the same. We have difficult choices to make every day. We need to stay faithful to ourselves and hopeful that our lives will return to normal without a pandemic. Still, even in these sad times, we can find some measure of happiness, as Susan Paulus Schutz says. Find happiness in nature, in the beauty of the mountain, in the serenity of the sea. Find happiness in friendship, in the fun of doing things together, on Zoom, and that's my words, in sharing and caring and the strength of love and honesty. Find happiness in yourselves, in your mind, in your body, in your values and achievements. Find happiness in everything you do. Find happiness in everything you do. Now we will sing hymn 213. There is a wideness in mercy.
Like the whiteness of the sea. treasures of our minds in the heart of the eternal is most wonderfully kind.
Now let us recite our affirmation. Speak the first verses and sing the second. Love is the spirit of this church, and service is its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and help one another.
From all that dwells below the skies, let songs of faith in arise. Let beauty, truth, and good be sung from every land by every tongue. Amen.
Now it's time to share joys and sorrows. We will move a stone to our symbolic river to mark each joy or sorrow. Please keep your joys and sorrows brief. Raise your hand to share, and we will unmute you to speak. For those joys and sorrows that are too private to share, know that our hearts are with you. And now I'm going to move a stone for all of those people. Now Bob will be changing places with me to do a meditation.
Good morning. I thought these words, A Litany for Survival by Audre Lorde, in the back of our hymnal, sounded relevant for these times. A litany for survival. For those of us who live at the shoreline, standing upon the constant edges of decision, crucial and alone, for those of us who cannot indulge the passing dreams of choice, for those of us who were imprinted with fear like a faint line in the center of our foreheads, learning to be afraid with our mother's milk. For by this weapon, this illusion of some safety to be found, the heavy-footed hoped to silence us. For all of us, this instant and this triumph, we were never meant to survive. And when the sun rises, we are afraid it might not remain. When the sun sets, we are afraid it might not rise in the morning. And when we speak, we are afraid our words will not be heard nor welcomed. But when we are silent, we are still afraid. So it is better to speak, remembering we were never meant to survive. Audre Lorde. Some moments of silence. 2 Zoom-related announcements. Tuesday, 1 o'clock, our topic will be, what are you finding hardest about this pause or quarantine or whatever we're in? What is each of us finding the hardest for us? And Friday at 11 o'clock, our Zoom gathering, current events. Will you be raising your hand to take a vaccine? Your feelings about that? Tuesday at 1, Friday at 11, let's get together and let me know you're interested, and you'll get the link to let you in, I hope. Now, choral video. Thank you, Corina. Thank you.
My life flows on in endless song above earth's lamentation. I hear the real, no far off hymn that hails a new creation. No storm can shake my inmost calm, while to that rock I'm clinging, since love prevails in heaven and earth. How can I keep from singing? While all the tempest round me roars, I know the truth it liveth, and though the darkness round me calls, songs in the night it giveth. No storm can shake my inmost calm, while to that rock I'm clinging, since love prevails in heaven and earth. How can I keep from singing? I lift my eyes, the cloud grows thin. I see the blue above it, and day by day this pathway smooths. Since first I learned to love it, no storm can shake my inmost calm. I hear the music ringing, it sounds an echo in my soul. How can I keep from singing?
I know I've gotten to an age where everybody I see that I don't know looks like somebody I do know, but I swear Bill Falk was among those faces singing. Maybe not. Questions for my maker. You remember the poet Frost's epitaph, and were an epitaph to be my story, I'd have a short one ready for my own. I would have written of me on my stone, I had a lover's quarrel with the world. Robert Frost. And if I were to have an etched stone, which I really do not want, mine would say, I had a lover's quarrel with my faith. So can I ask my questions now? One thing I love about UU is the freedom to question. I often thought in my previous tenure here, we ought to have a lit billboard outside, and on it in big print, bring your religious answers to us, and we will help you question them. But how many would come? We'll know when we go to gallery mode. The great theologian Tillich wrote that doubt isn't a sign of the absence of faith, but rather faith's constant companion. I'll begin with a whimsical question to my maker. In 1975, the advice sister Ann Landers responded to a letter from a young childless couple's question. Would people want children if they could choose, knowing the potential for heartache and disappointment? Landers asked her readership and reported, I believe, that a good majority responded they would not. And soon Good Housekeeping magazine joined in with, it's all in the putting of the question. And Good Housekeeping solicited more responses and claimed a majority view in favor of having children. Close call for our children. So my question to my maker, if you knew what humans would do to the natural world and to each other, you know, centuries of slaughter, all in your name, of course. Well, you get the drift of that question. What calls all faith into question is the age-old matter of human suffering. The computer in my head doesn't have a font big enough to write the question in view of the pandemic connecting and threatening the entire world and the lives and livelihoods of all in the world. It is so challenging to belief in the basic goodness and gift of human life and all the created order, that I'm going to escape into a related digression. It's the most interesting thing I have learned in my field, religion, in this century, the 21st. Bart Ehrman, UNC professor of religion, started writing 15 years ago about the transmission of Christians' sacred texts, how texts got copied and passed through the centuries. I've wondered, surely you've wondered, please wonder for the next minute or two, how could these writings have survived for a millennium and a half before the Gutenberg printing press? Ehrman discovered there was no existing intact New Testament, Matthew, Mark through Revelation, no New Testament, no scroll or script before the year 400 CE. So that long after the recorded experiences or lives, that long, before 400, only fragments of writings and quotations in ancient theologians. In the fragments, Ehrman could prove errors in copying, intentional changing of words to agree with orthodoxy coming out of councils of bishops in the Mediterranean world, which met to get disagreeing Jesus followers from fighting with each other and tearing apart the empire. He could show slurred lines indicating the scribes falling asleep. One of his books we studied in our Wednesday group is titled God's Problem. The problem for the maker, for belief in the maker, is the gigantic magnitude of human suffering. So Ehrman, who began study in one of the most conservative places, Moody Bible Institute in Chicago, and ended his formal study at Princeton, ended his faith at UNC. What brought Bertrand Russell soaring to the heights of knowledge and in the ecstasy of human love to the pits and pity of human suffering, ditto for this great scholar of the sacred texts. So it wasn't the evidence of human foible and flaw and tampering in what evangelicals dared to call inerrant sacred writ and still do. You know, inerrant, not a ounce of error in it. No, for Ehrman and many who want the universe and whatever deity we believe in, they have a heart. They have a heart and show it. There is just too much contrary evidence. Too much evidence of human inhumanity and greed and too much abuse of nature. There is too much abuse, too much suffering of innocence. It's one thing to know that after a while our parts break down and we become cash cows for doctors in Florida and anywhere. We knew our parents and grandparents. That's the way of all the earth. But there are too damn many that don't get to that point, but start out with less than a sound mind or a whole human body. And life isn't fair, isn't enough of an answer to human suffering. We get to live in paradise so long as hurricanes let us. Storms like hurricanes, twisters, and droughts always hurt most the most vulnerable. All those fires in California. One reported the size of Rhode Island. That's where Bruce and Ken are, the size of Rhode Island. In the Times yesterday, the virus decimating the indigenous tribes of the Amazon and Native Americans. There is too much unprotection. The people in Iowa have been saying, "What about us?" for a couple weeks now. Storm's destruction can't compete for attention with COVID. No one ever knows or counts the loss of animal life. There was a child in our previous home in this area, a child in the condo building with progeria. I'm not sure if that's how you say it, progeria, like Rabbi Harold Kushner's son. Which terrible disease led him to write, "When bad things happen to good people." Not why, because there is no answer to why. And his answers to when, sometimes there is no reason, no answer. And for God's sake, no answer is better than the will of God. And we learn how vulnerable we all are and how much we need each other. And our only hope is cooperation around the world. But even when you know you can't ask why, you still ask why. Kushner makes much of the Hebrew scripture fable, the book of Job. It is a troubling and unsettling fable. The idea is, See if a man's faith holds up when all the comforts of life are removed and accusations come that your faith must have been defective from the start. The fable plot is, dispose of a man's mate and family and farm and see if he is still a righteous, faithful man. And it ends with a dialogue between Job and his maker. And Job says, why? And the maker says, who are you to question me? Where were you when I drew the big picture, the big bang, the creation, whatever? And the fable's idea is unsettling, and the conclusion way less than comforting. You don't get answers to life's worst whys. I love the Jewish song, Dayenu. The meaning to the Jews, I've been told, is it would have been enough, Dayenu. There has been so much provision, it would have been enough. But more provision kept coming. We can't but be grateful, yes. But there are too many unprotected and unprovided for. A lot of gaps in need are man-made and man-maintained, but there are gaps that aren't. And we can only ask why and what can be done when it seems like nothing can be done. When the son of the famous Yale chaplain and Vietnam War protester, William Sloane Coffin, when his 20-something son, too fond of alcohol, drove a car into Boston Harbor and lost his life, Coffin, when he could speak again, said the only thing that got him through the loss was the faith that whatever God he believed in had a heart that also was broken about his, Coffin's, son. He also said, too many clergy colleagues consoled themselves, but not him, with will of God talk. The people who comforted him were those who brought food. You believe what you have to or want to survive. The other big question for me is, what is the point of this spiritual journey? Pilate's question to Jesus, what is truth? Got silence. Another is, why has the search for spiritual truth and the claims to having discovered it led to such bloodshed? We had a guest speaker in our former sanctuary years ago explaining the Baha'i faith, the teachings of a 19th century Persian mystic named Ba'ab, B-A-A-B. That Ba'ab taught that truth and peace are bedfellows. You get enlightenment and you live in peace because you discover you are like everybody else. We are all the same at core, so we are one. The mystic Ba'ab went to prison. Baha'i remained a small minority in Iran, persecuted by the heirs of Muhammad, who just went on fighting each other. And only the wall of separation of church and state made the American colonies a haven from Christians killing each other in Europe. The 30 Years' War, 1618 to 1648, Europe's uncivil war between Catholics and Protestants, 8 million dead, 20% of the German population, led to the intellectual ferment called the Enlightenment and the realization in America that we had to be protected from religion as much as for it. Back to Pilate's question, what is truth? We have a personal truth, what is true for us. That has a lot to do with choices we have made and commitments we have kept, and course corrections along the way. For me, the truth always seems just beyond reach And always like that elephant in the fable, we don't all get the same take on. From ancient times to the present, the great quest seems like a shedding of the trivial, the inessential, the superficial, a longing for deep, soulful silence instead of noise. So our own withinness was and is the place to search. Guides in the form of books, gurus, clergy, help, I hope, but must not take the place of your own journey in. We are pointers toward, not destinations. And that journey in sounds isolating, but it isn't, because what you discover there links you to those around you, to those who need you, to those before you, and to those after you. That was the richness and the crime of the Gnostic literature that was almost lost to history, but was found buried in northern Egypt in 1945. The literature dated to the 1st century CE, spelled out a spiritual fund or quest without the need of clergy or churches. Without the need of clergy, of course it had to be heretical. A wealth of spirit within everyone. Mystic universes and layers of realms of spirit were imagined or found, and often sounded just weird. But the point was, you look, you find, and who knows what you will find, but you won't find without looking. And those who offer to take you there have their own agenda. My dis-ease is not that I really want a bumper sticker that says, I found it. I'd settle for a sticker that says the question was the point. But occasionally, I'd like to be surer than I am that I'm asking the right question. Maybe the sticker I have to live with says, some disease is good. If you cure it, you lose. Our closing hymn, 331, life is the greatest gift of all. Ronnie will extinguish our chalice during these closing words. We are all searching. The best I believe we can do is learn from each other. Learning something from the truth that others have found for themselves has got to be a good part of the quest. In a moment, Bruce will play the postlude. Plan to stay after for our coffee hour. Then we want you unmuted in gallery mode for a few minutes together, then about 20 in which we would just talk to each other in smaller groups. Thank you, Bruce.
The postlude is a fugue in E flat by Johann Sebastian Bach, and it's from the Well-Tempered Clavier, Volume 2.